What I'm about to tell you may force you to rethink every reassuring sentence you've ever heard about your heart, especially after the age of 60. Because the most dangerous heart advice still being given to older adults is not dramatic, not loud, and not obviously reckless. It sounds calm, reasonable, comforting, and that is exactly why it's so deadly. Somewhere right now, a senior in Ohio is dismissing a strange wave of fatigue. Somewhere in Arizona, another person is blaming jaw pain on dental work. Somewhere in Florida, somebody is waiting for real chest pain that may never come. And while they wait, heart muscle is dying. I'm Dr. Michael Joel, and today I need to tell you something that could quite literally save your life. Or the life of someone you love. The absolute worst heart advice your doctor can give you is this. If it were really your heart, you'd have crushing chest pain. That single sentence has delayed more life-saving decisions than most people can imagine. Because it trains older adults to look for one Hollywood symptom while ignoring the quiet, subtle, very American reality of how heart trouble often shows up in real life. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why that advice is so dangerously incomplete. Please subscribe now for simple, life-saving heart lessons that protect your independence, your family, and your future every single week. Before I explain exactly why this advice is so dangerous, let me tell you about Robert from Columbus, Ohio. Robert was 72, a retired postal worker, dependable, practical, not the kind of man who rushed to the emergency room over nothing. One Saturday afternoon, he carried 2 grocery bags from the car into the kitchen. Halfway through putting away the milk, he felt something strange. Not pain, not pressure. Just a heavy, sick, drained feeling. He sat down at the table and told his wife he felt off. Then came the sweating, then the nausea, then a kind of weakness he couldn't explain, but because he had no crushing pain in his chest, Robert waited. For 3 hours, Robert kept trying to talk himself out of what his body was trying to tell him. Maybe it was something he ate, maybe he was dehydrated, maybe he was just getting older. And underneath all of those excuses was one sentence that had been planted in his mind years earlier. If it's your heart, you'll know. If it's serious, it'll be chest pain. By the time his wife finally convinced him to go to the hospital, the doctors told him he was in the middle of a heart attack. Not a possible one. Not an early warning, an active heart attack. And the question that haunted him afterward was simple. Why didn't anyone tell me it could feel like that? That question, that exact question, is the center of this entire video. Because many older adults are not missing heart trouble because they're careless. They're missing it because they were taught to watch for the wrong thing. They were taught to treat the heart like a fire alarm that always sounds the same. But the heart is not that predictable. Sometimes it screams, sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it doesn't hurt at all. Sometimes it feels like indigestion in Kansas City, shortness of breath in Tampa, shoulder discomfort in Phoenix, or overwhelming fatigue in Pittsburgh. And if you've been taught to ignore everything except dramatic chest pain, you can lose the narrow window when treatment matters most. Let me tell you about Helen from Mesa, Arizona, because her story reveals how deceptive heart symptoms can be after 60. Helen was 69, active, socially engaged, the kind of woman who organized church breakfasts and remembered everyone's birthday. One Sunday morning during service, she felt an ache spreading up the left side of her neck into her jaw. Not severe, not terrifying, just annoying. Later that afternoon, she felt it again, along with a little upper back discomfort and a strange wave of breathlessness walking from the parking lot. She assumed she had slept wrong or maybe clenched her teeth at night. Her dentist had recently mentioned jaw tension, so that explanation felt easy, familiar, harmless. But, Helen's jaw was not the problem. Her heart was. What she was experiencing was referred pain, one of the most misunderstood warning signs in cardiology. The nerves involved in heart distress do not always create sensation neatly in the center of the chest like a textbook illustration. They can produce discomfort in the jaw, the neck, the shoulders, the upper back, even the arms or stomach. That's what makes this so dangerous for seniors. The symptom doesn't arrive wearing a name tag. It borrows the mask of something ordinary. Arthritis, acid reflux, a bad pillow, stress, a pulled muscle. And because the disguise is believable, people delay. Now, here's where this becomes frightening, especially for older adults in the United States. The older you get, the less likely your body is to present problems in neat, dramatic patterns. Diabetes can dull nerve signals. Age-related changes can blur symptom intensity. Medications can alter perception. Existing aches and pains create noise that hides new danger. So instead of a sharp alarm, what many seniors feel is a vague message. I'm unusually tired. I can't catch my breath. I feel weak. My stomach feels strange. I'm sweating, but I'm not hot. And because none of those symptoms look like the movie version of a heart attack, people keep driving, keep shopping, keep cleaning the house, keep waiting. James in Sarasota, Florida made that exact mistake, and his story still stays with me. James was 77, a Navy veteran, disciplined, mentally sharp, proud of the fact that he still mowed his own lawn. One morning he noticed he was getting winded far too easily just walking from the garage to the driveway. He didn't feel chest pain. He didn't feel panic. He just felt as if someone had quietly turned down his stamina overnight. Over the next 2 days, he needed to stop and rest after little things that had never bothered him before. Taking out the trash, climbing 6 stairs, carrying laundry. He thought maybe he was coming down with a virus, or maybe his age had finally caught up with him. But shortness of breath, especially when it is new, unexplained, or happening with very small amounts of activity, can be one of the clearest heart warnings we see in older adults. That's because when the heart isn't pumping effectively or the heart muscle isn't getting enough oxygen, the body often reports the problem through breathing before it reports it through pain. James finally went in after his daughter noticed he was pausing mid-sentence to breathe. The test showed he had significant coronary blockage and had already had a small heart attack. His main symptom was not pain, it was breathlessness. Quiet, progressive, easy to ignore breathlessness. And then there's Linda from Fort Worth, Texas, whose story is even more unsettling because her symptom was something millions of seniors dismiss every day: fatigue. Linda was 73, a former elementary school librarian. Careful, organized, not someone who complained without reason. For about a week, she kept telling her sister, "I'm just so tired." Not sleepy, not depressed, not lazy, just deeply, unusually drained. She would wake up feeling unrefreshed. She would fold half a basket of laundry and need to sit down. Even getting dressed for a lunch with friends felt like work. She blamed poor sleep, summer heat, and just getting older. Then one afternoon in a Target parking lot, she became nauseated, sweaty, and lightheaded. Linda was having a heart attack, and what nearly cost her precious time was the belief that heart symptoms must feel like pain. But profound, unusual fatigue can be a real cardiac symptom, especially in women and especially in older adults. Not ordinary tiredness. Not the kind you feel after gardening or traveling. I mean fatigue that feels disproportionate to your day. Fatigue that arrives without explanation. Fatigue with a strange sense that something in your body is not right. When that type of fatigue appears along with breathlessness, nausea, sweating, dizziness, pressure, or discomfort anywhere in the upper body, the heart must be considered. Not eventually. Immediately. This is why, when I hear the phrase, "If it were your heart, you'd know," I get deeply concerned. Because it sounds reassuring, but it teaches the wrong survival rule. It teaches people to wait for certainty instead of responding to warning, and the heart rarely gives certainty at the beginning. It gives clues, patterns, deviations from normal, a new heaviness, an odd exhaustion, a strange pressure, a sudden inability to do what you did last week, a body that feels wrong in a way you can't fully explain. Seniors who survive often tell me the same thing. I didn't think it was serious enough. I kept waiting for it to become obvious. That waiting is where danger lives. So let me say the dangerous advice plainly, because I want there to be no confusion. The number one worst heart advice is this: don't worry unless you have severe chest pain. That advice is incomplete, outdated, and in some cases, catastrophic. Yes, chest discomfort is a very important warning sign. Yes, many heart attacks do involve chest pressure, squeezing, fullness, or pain. But when you teach seniors to expect only crushing chest pain, you create blind spots wide enough for silent heart attacks, atypical symptoms, and life-threatening delays to slip right through. You don't protect people by narrowing the definition of danger. You protect them by widening their understanding of it. Walter from Des Moines, Iowa learned that lesson the hardest way. Because his symptom looked exactly like ordinary indigestion. Walter was 74 and loved diner breakfasts. Pancakes, bacon, coffee, the whole routine. One Tuesday morning after eating, he felt burning high in his stomach with a little pressure under the breastbone. He told himself the greasy food had finally caught up with him. He took antacids. He walked around. He even joked with the waitress that he was too old for hash browns. But then he started sweating. Not heavily, just enough to dampen his collar. Then came a strange ache into his left arm. Still no dramatic chest pain. Still no emergency in his mind. So, he drove home. By the time Walter's son found him pale and exhausted in his recliner, several hours had passed. The emergency room confirmed what the antacids never could fix. He was having a heart attack. And that is another reason the worst heart advice is so dangerous. Heart symptoms can mimic digestive trouble. They can feel like pressure, burning, fullness, belching, or a sensation people describe as something sitting in my chest. If symptoms are new, unusual, intense, associated with exertion, or paired with sweating, nausea, lightheadedness, or shortness of breath, you do not win a prize for guessing acid reflux and waiting it out. You risk losing healthy heart muscle, minute by minute, while trying to be tough. Now, here's the part that should make every senior stop and think. Some heart disease is silent for years, meaning the first unmistakable event is not a warning. It is the crisis itself. Plaque can build quietly. Blood flow can narrow gradually. The body can compensate until one day it can't. That is why relying on dramatic symptoms alone is so dangerous. It's also why saying, well, I had a good checkup, can create false confidence. A decent exam, normal blood pressure one afternoon, or even reassuring lab work does not guarantee your heart cannot be in trouble tomorrow. Your body's changes still matter. Your symptoms still matter. The pattern still matters. And no, I am not telling you that every strange sensation is a heart attack. That would be irresponsible and frightening in the wrong way. I'm telling you something more useful. I'm telling you that the heart often announces trouble through combinations rather than one giant signal. New breathlessness plus fatigue, jaw discomfort plus nausea, upper back pressure plus sweating, lightheadedness plus chest fullness, symptoms during exertion that ease with rest, then come back again. This is how the body often speaks before the emergency becomes unmistakable. The goal is not to panic over every symptom. The goal is to stop dismissing meaningful patterns just because they don't match a dramatic television scene. Let me give you the 7 heart warnings that seniors most often brush aside, and I need you to hear them as a group, not as isolated trivia. First, chest discomfort that feels like pressure, squeezing, fullness, tightness, or burning, not just stabbing pain. Second, discomfort in the jaw, neck, shoulder, arms, upper back, or upper stomach. Third, shortness of breath, especially during very small activities or even at rest. Fourth, unusual sweating, nausea, or sudden clamminess. Fifth, extreme or unusual fatigue that makes normal tasks feel strangely hard. Sixth, dizziness, lightheadedness, or a sense you may faint. Seventh, a sudden drop in exercise tolerance, where your body can't do what it did last week. Let's go deeper into that last one, because it may be one of the most overlooked clues in America, especially among proud, independent older adults. When your body suddenly cannot tolerate normal activity, that matters. If you usually walk 2 blocks in Milwaukee and suddenly 1 block leaves you winded, that matters. If carrying groceries in Nashville suddenly feels like climbing a hill with sandbags on your chest, that matters. If your morning walk in Sacramento becomes strangely difficult for no obvious reason, that matters. Seniors often explain this away as aging because aging is convenient. It explains almost anything. But true cardiac decline often hides inside that word. And the longer you blame age for a new limitation, the longer you may ignore a treatable problem. Carol from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania did exactly that. And her story illustrates how subtle this can become. Carol was 71 and had one habit every morning. She walked her Labrador around the same neighborhood loop. One week she noticed she needed to slow down on a small incline that had never bothered her before. Then she started skipping the second half of the route because she felt kind of washed out. No chest pain, no collapse. Just a loss of reserve. Her friends said, "Well, we're not 40 anymore." And that sentence almost cost her dearly. When she finally got evaluated, doctors found significant blockage that required urgent treatment. Her first major symptom was not pain. It was shrinking capacity. Day by day. There is another trap seniors fall into, and it is one of the cruelest. Attributing heart symptoms to anxiety. Now, anxiety is real. It affects breathing, pulse, sleep, digestion, all of it. But anxiety can also become a convenient label when the real problem hasn't yet been recognized. I have seen older adults told their symptoms were probably stress, when what they were actually describing was breathlessness with exertion, pounding heartbeat, chest pressure, or strange fatigue. If a symptom is new, recurrent, activity-related, worsening, or accompanied by any of the warning signs we discussed, it deserves cardiac consideration. Not because it definitely is the heart, because missing the heart is far more dangerous than over-respecting it. That happened to Denise in Charlotte, North Carolina, a 68-year-old grandmother who kept getting episodes of chest tightness and breathlessness while hurrying through airports to visit her grandchildren. She was told once that it might be panic, and because the episodes passed when she sat down, she accepted that explanation. But what was actually happening was that exertion was triggering a problem with blood flow to her heart. Sitting relieved it because her demand dropped. That pattern, symptoms with activity and relief with rest, is one of the most important clues in all of cardiology. Denise was not weak. She was not overreacting. Her heart was sending an early message. The problem was, she'd been taught the wrong dictionary. So what should replace the worst heart advice? What should seniors believe instead? Here it is. And I want you to remember this sentence. Heart trouble does not have to be dramatic to be dangerous. That is the truth. That is the safer rule. You do not wait for certainty. You respect change. You respect combinations. You respect symptoms that are new, unusual, exertional, worsening, or simply alarming, because they are not normal for you. Your heart is not required to follow a script before you take it seriously. And if there is one phrase I wish every American over 60 would erase from their mind, it is this. I'll wait until it becomes real. It is already real when your body changes. Now let me be practical, because practical steps save lives. If you develop possible heart symptoms that are severe, persistent, or accompanied by breathlessness, sweating, nausea, faintness, or spreading discomfort, call 911. Do not drive yourself from Phoenix traffic, Dallas suburbs, or rural Missouri roads hoping it will pass. Do not ask your spouse to wait a little longer. Do not finish the TV show. Do not clean the kitchen first. Do not take a shower and see how you feel after. Emergency treatment is time-sensitive. The fastest path to help is emergency response. Not denial, not Google, not a nap. And not a second cup of coffee while you try to convince yourself it's nothing. If the symptom is not an emergency, but it is clearly new, recurring, or suspicious, make it a same-day or urgent conversation with a medical professional. And be specific. Don't say, I feel bad sometimes. Say, for the past 4 days, I get short of breath walking to the mailbox. Say, I have jaw pressure and sweating when I climb stairs. Say, my usual walk suddenly feels hard, and I feel nauseated afterward. Details matter, patterns matter, timing matters. What you were doing when it started matters. The more clearly you describe the story, the less likely it is that your body's warning will be reduced to something vague and forgettable. And if you've already had heart problems before, the danger of this bad advice becomes even greater. Many seniors assume a future heart event will feel exactly like the last one. That is not always true. One event may come with chest pressure, the next may come with breathlessness and weakness. One episode may be loud, the next may be subtle. Your heart is not obligated to repeat itself. So if you have coronary artery disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, prior stents, prior bypass surgery, or a past heart attack, do not narrow your attention. Expand it. You are not being paranoid by noticing change. You are being wise. Recurrent heart problems are often missed because people wait for familiar pain that never arrives. Let me tell you about Frank from Louisville, Kentucky, because his story brings this entire lesson into focus. Frank was 76, had a stent placed years earlier, and believed he knew exactly what heart trouble felt like. The first time, he'd had obvious chest pressure. So when he later developed sudden weakness, cold sweating, and a strange discomfort in his upper back while carrying boxes in the garage, he dismissed it. "This is different," he said. "So it can't be my heart." That assumption nearly killed him. It was his heart. It was serious. It was just different. Frank survived, but he told me afterward that the most dangerous thing in the whole episode wasn't the blockage. It was certainty. The false certainty that heart symptoms always repeat themselves. That's why I need you to hear this next part very clearly. The body usually whispers before it collapses, and seniors are often the first to silence the whisper. You don't want to bother anyone. You don't want to overreact. You don't want to be embarrassed in an emergency room if it turns out to be nothing. I understand that. I truly do. But let me tell you what is far more painful than being told, "Good news, it wasn't your heart." It is being told, hours too late, "I wish you had come sooner." No one regrets getting checked and being safe. Many people regret waiting because they were trying to be reasonable while their heart was running out of time. So the next time you hear someone say, maybe even a doctor years ago, "If it were your heart, you'd have crushing chest pain," I want you to reject that oversimplified advice immediately. Replace it with a better truth. Heart danger can look like pressure, burning, fatigue, nausea, jaw pain, back pain, breathlessness, dizziness, sweating, weakness, or a sudden inability to tolerate ordinary effort. It can be dramatic. It can also be quiet. And seniors are especially vulnerable to the quiet version. That is not meant to scare you. It is meant to equip you. Fear freezes people. Accurate understanding moves them. And when it comes to the heart, movement at the right time can save muscle, independence, memory, mobility, and life itself. Let me give you the rule I want you to live by from this day forward. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. Do not wait for perfect symptoms. Act on meaningful change. If a symptom is new, unexplained, and not normal for you, pay attention. If it comes with exertion, pay even closer attention. If it comes with sweating, nausea, lightheadedness, unusual fatigue, or breathlessness, treat it with the respect it deserves. The heart does not send warning signs for your convenience. It sends them in the language your body is able to speak in that moment. Your job is not to demand a more dramatic message. Your job is to listen to the one you are being given. And that is why the #1 absolute worst heart advice your doctor can give you is the advice that tells you to wait for severe chest pain before taking your symptoms seriously. It teaches delay. It rewards denial. It blinds older adults to the real ways danger often appears. You deserve better than that. Your family deserves better than that, and your future depends on better than that. If this video changed how you understand heart warning signs, share it with someone over 60 tonight. A brother in Illinois, a sister in Georgia, a neighbor in Michigan, a spouse in California. Because the right message, heard in time, can be the difference between a close call and a catastrophe. Take care of your heart, trust meaningful changes in your body, and I'll see you in the next video.